Welcome to Trending Unpacked, the show where we explore the stories behind the trends shaping our world. Today, we are focusing on a specific digital firestorm, one that really proves the public's obsession with high-profile relationships, well, it knows absolutely no bounds. We are talking about the recent massive online conversation surrounding two of entertainment's most powerful figures, Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban.
Ah, yes. It's a perfect case study, really. Shows how quickly observation can, morph into fabrication in the modern media landscape. I mean, for years, they've kind of been the benchmark for Hollywood meets Nashville endurance, haven't they? But then, in late 2025, just a few scattered appearances and some social media whispers, they just detonated.
Yeah.
Blew up into this genuine widespread speculation that maybe, just maybe, the couple might be heading for a split.
Yeah, the suddenness was jarring, wasn't it? We've seen these kinds of rumors before, sure, but this time felt different. It seemed largely fueled by these highly visible triggers. You had a few separate red carpet outings for Nicole, some solo paparazzi photos of Keith popping up, and then just an absolute explosion of cryptic fan posts and these visual comparisons that just lit up platforms like X, Instagram, and TikTok.
And that's really our mission today, isn't it? We need to take the actual facts, the confirmed professional commitments, their known timeline, and stack them against the sheer intensity of these social media narratives. It's really an exploration of celebrity scrutiny, the anatomy of a viral rumor, and maybe more broadly, the cultural context that drives us, the audience, to fixate so intensely on the private lives of public figures.
Okay, so let's start with the foundation. Because I think to really understand the public fixation, you have to understand the partnership itself. This isn't some couple that just got together last week. This is a union built over, nearly 2 decades, and under one of the world's brightest spotlights.
Precisely.
Yeah,
we're talking about a significant historical context here. It's important. Their story kicked off back in 2005, remember? At that G-Day LA event. And they were married pretty swiftly the following year, 2006. And just think about the careers they were juggling even back then, Nicole. Already an established, Oscar winner, and Keith, already a massive country music megastar with this huge touring machine behind him.
Right. And it's not just 2 decades of marriage, but 2 decades of bicoastal and even international marriage. They've got their 2 daughters, Sunday Rose and Faith Margaret, and they maintain these 2 primary residences that are, culturally and geographically pretty distinct. Nashville, which is Keith's industry stronghold, and then Sydney, Nicole's home base, and increasingly a production center for her work. That established a geographical complexity right from the start, and it's crucial to the current speculation, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. The logistics alone are dizzying when you think about it. For them, being separated sometimes isn't necessarily a symptom of trouble. It's a structural necessity of their careers. It just has to happen. Nicole needs to be in London for filming or maybe Los Angeles for premieres. Keith's career demands, quite literally, that he be physically present on stage for these global tours, often for months at a time, crisscrossing continents. They have always had to navigate separations that would challenge any marriage, let alone one under constant public scrutiny.
Which makes their public image even more remarkable, actually. They really seem to master this selective, quite strategic public front. They weren't really known for oversharing, which usually invites less scrutiny, but they were careful to share just enough.
The key was consistency. That's what I think. They established a baseline expectation for the public. Occasional affectionate appearances, those heartfelt mentions and acceptance speeches, and those calculated affirming comments and interviews about mutual support. They carefully crafted an image of enduring, deep, and resilient affection. And that strategy, it worked pretty well for a long time to keep the major, messy tabloid drama mostly at bay. But maybe it also created an expectation of, perfection.
Right. And when you create an expectation of perfection, any deviation, even if it's perfectly logical professionally, suddenly looks like a major fault line. And that's probably why the shift, or the perceived shift in 2025, was so effective at fueling that rumor mill.
Absolutely. The speculation wasn't really driven by a single explosive event, like a fight caught on camera or something. No, it was driven more by the cumulative absence of the usual signs of togetherness. You had Nicole making several high-profile solo appearances, promoting multiple projects, which is a huge professional demand, obviously. And simultaneously, Keith was heavily engaged in this rigorous world tour, maximizing the geographic distance between them.
And the narrative quickly morphed, didn't it? From busy professionals to marital distance and tension, it happened so fast. And the visual evidence that fans fixated on was, it was fascinatingly superficial when you look closely. It wasn't about new fights or anything concrete. It was mostly about comparing images Old versus new.
Yeah, it was almost like an exercise in nostalgia policing. You
Yeah.
saw these viral posts taking old photos, say from 2017, where they're locked in a close embrace on a red carpet, and then juxtaposing them with 2025 photos. Photos where maybe Nicole is alone at a premiere, or Keith is photographed alone coming off a tour bus somewhere. And the caption, usually implicit or explicit, was, "See the difference? Something is wrong."
That comparison point, that seems to be the fundamental mechanism of digital suspicion, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It's like fans essentially hold this invisible, constantly updating checklist of required public interactions for couples they follow. And if the couple doesn't meet the perceived quota for shared appearances or affectionate eye contact or, I don't know, timely anniversary posts on social media, that information vacuum is just immediately filled with a hypothesis of failure. Speculation rushes in.
And that leads us directly into this massive cultural shift we're seeing, where simple gossip gets amplified into this like industrial scale investigative effort, an effort by literally millions of users who often have no real stake in the truth of the matter, only in the drama it generates.
It's the velocity of digital gossip that is truly staggering here. Our sources confirm that, many entertainment outlets and gossip blogs weren't actually reporting on new facts or confirmations. They were often just recycling and aggregating fan chatter, taking speculative threads from X or Reddit and presenting them almost as evidence of growing marital concerns.
Right. This is where the structural change in how media is disseminated becomes so crucial. Social media platforms, particularly the ones driven by short-form video and high engagement like TikTok, they prioritize conflict and speculation over established fact. It just performs better. So a rumor might start on some small Reddit thread, maybe someone dissecting a blurry background photo. It gets a high algorithmic reward because it generates clicks and comments. Then it gets picked up by a commentator on TikTok, maybe with some dramatic music. And suddenly it's treated almost like a legitimate news source by millions who never saw the original, totally unsubstantiated source.
Yeah, the line between fact and fiction isn't just blurred anymore. It feels like it's actively encouraged to be blurred by the platforms themselves. Because, let's face it, speculation drives clicks much faster than a quiet confirmation or denial. And probably the most compelling engine of this speculation machine, the rise of the quote-unquote digital body language expert.
Oh, this phenomenon, especially on TikTok, it's a significant cultural development. We saw these videos getting millions of views. Videos where commentators who are rarely, certified psychologists or relationship therapists, but often just charismatic social media personalities, analyze these tiny, minute details from public appearances, sometimes appearances dating back years.
Okay, so tell us a bit more about the specific methodology they claim to use, even if it is, highly speculative. What were they actually looking for? What were the tells?
Well, they typically look for deviations from what they call the couple's baseline behavior. Because Kidman and Urban are generally so publicly affectionate, that established a very clear baseline in the public eye. So these analysts would specifically dissect subtle cues, maybe a slight lean away from one another in a joint photo, a hand clasp that didn't feel anchored or firm enough in their view, or, and this is a really common one, a perceived lack of the usual enthusiastic eye contact during a joint interview clip.
Wow. So if Keith usually has his hand, say, firmly placed on Nicole's lower back, and in a recent photo, maybe the hand is just resting near her elbow, that becomes proof of distance.
Exactly, precisely that. It's reading these micro expressions and subtle physical distances and then blowing them up into definitive proof of emotional withdrawal or tension. It gives the audience the sense of being an active, almost superior detective, capable of seeing the hidden truth that the couple is supposedly trying to conceal. It's incredibly engaging content, even if it's ultimately baseless, because it appeals to that universal human desire we all have to decode behavior, to figure people out.
But why the fixation specifically on Kidman and Urban? I mean, there are dozens of celebrity relationships out there. Why does the public seem to care so profoundly if this specific coupling is okay or not?
That's a good question. I think it taps into a deeper cultural requirement for the perfect couple archetype. They aren't just any celebrities. They're seen as relationship survivors. Both have been through very public, previous high-profile marriages and struggles. Keith with addiction, Nicole with her previous relationship with Tom Cruise, which was intensely scrutinized. So their success together kind of represented a second chance, didn't it? A model of resilience and permanence in an industry notorious for its volatility.
Right. So they sort of became the representatives of ideal love or maybe achievable love because they were living proof that you could navigate immense fame, past failure, personal struggles, and still maintain a deep, lasting connection.
Exactly. And when that model is threatened, or even just perceived to be threatened, it triggers a really powerful parasocial reaction in the audience. Fans feel like they are emotionally invested stakeholders in the success of this particular pairing. If the perfect couple breaks up, it almost feels like a personal refutation of the concept of enduring love itself, or at least enduring love under extreme pressure. The public invests its own romantic ideals and hopes into them, you know?
And our sources did confirm this paradox. Audiences, intellectually, they kind of know online gossip is often toxic and maybe low quality. Yet they engage with this kind of speculation so heavily. It's like an intellectual disconnect driven purely by emotional investment or maybe just curiosity.
It creates this fascinating debate you see playing out among users online. Is the constant scrutiny itself the primary factor that strains their relationship? Or is it the inherent structure of their industry, the constant travel, the bicoastal living, the demanding schedules? That's the real problem, something only super high-profile people face to that degree.
It's probably a bit of a vicious reinforcing cycle, isn't it? The pressures of a world tour certainly don't help a marriage, logistically. And then the resulting distance, when it's magnified by millions of digital detectives actively looking for proof of failure. That must create an almost unbearable level of scrutiny that they then have to manage. It probably forces them to be even more guarded, and that guarding, ironically, just fuels further speculation.
And that's the tension right there. What do you do? Do you protect your privacy fiercely, thereby maybe confirming the public's suspicions that you have something to hide? Or do you overshare to try and prove everything's fine, which then just invites even more invasive analysis of every little detail you share? It's a tough spot.
But, it wasn't all just frenzied speculation. We should definitely highlight the significant pushback, the voice of reason, that did emerge online as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. To maintain balance, we really need to acknowledge that huge swaths of the audience, particularly on platforms like X and Reddit, actively defended the couple. Their argument was generally simple and factual. They pointed out specific upcoming film release schedules for Nicole, confirmed tour dates for Keith, and argued that these professionals were simply, fulfilling massive contracts, doing their jobs.
Yeah, these more rational users were actively calling out the media outlets and gossip blogs, urging restraint, reminding the collective internet that separate work events are not equivalent to filed separation papers. That's a key distinction. They specifically targeted those body language experts by highlighting the absurdity, really, of interpreting a 5-second video clip taken completely out of context.
It serves as a healthy reminder, I think, that even within the most intense digital echo chambers, there are users committed to critical thinking. They often act as a sort of counter-algorithmic force, trying to combat the viral spread of completely unverified claims, which is encouraging in a way.
Okay, which brings us to the necessary pivot, the analysis and the crucial takeaway here. We've established the emotional context, the speculation, but let's shift focus now from all that noise to the substantiated information. What do we actually know?
The foundational reality check, and it really must be repeated, is this. Representatives for both Nicole Kidman and Keith Urban have not confirmed any breakup. 0 official statements have been made suggesting a split. Everything we have discussed so far, from the subtle lean analysis in photos to the comparisons across years, is built entirely on speculation and inference, not facts.
That distinction is paramount, isn't it? Yet the speculation often feels more real to people online than the lack of confirmation. And this really highlights the cycle of celebrity scrutiny that has been operating for decades, only now it's supercharged by the speed and reach of social media.
Yeah, the public tends to set this impossibly high standard for their chosen ideal couples, demanding constant visible validation of their happiness and togetherness. Then, at the very slightest flicker of distance, even unnecessary distance dictated by multi-million-dollar contracts and global careers, the narrative immediately pivots to anticipated downfall. It's almost like a self-fulfilling prophecy of gossip.
The pressure of public expectation invading private life must be immense. We have to remember that Keith's world tour isn't just a choice he made on a whim. It's a massive professional commitment required by his global brand, his record label, his fan base. And Nicole promoting, say, 3 separate films back-to-back requires her physical presence in 3 separate cities or countries.
Right. These aren't indicators of marital failure. They are indicators of immense professional success. That's the reality. Yet the public often seems unable, or maybe unwilling, to reconcile the two. There's this underlying assumption. If you were truly happy, you would somehow prioritize being physically together constantly over your career demands. That is just an impossible bind for 2 globally successful individuals at the top of their respective fields.
It also speaks maybe to the public's lack of trust in the quiet resilience that's actually required for a long-term partnership in that industry. I mean, they have weathered massive media storms before. They surely understand the cycle of scrutiny by now.
That historical context is probably their shield in many ways.
Yeah.
Their sheer longevity suggests they possess incredibly robust internal mechanisms for managing this precise kind of pressure. They likely have a playbook, refined over almost 2 decades, for how to maintain boundaries, how to communicate effectively across vast distances. Things the public, looking for instantaneous photographic evidence, entirely misses.
So when we encounter a trending story of this magnitude, What is the ultimate lesson for the listener, for you listening right now? How do we apply skepticism effectively without becoming totally cynical?
Well, I think this case is a perfect illustration of the necessity of active media literacy. It sounds simple, but it's crucial. When you see a viral trend that's driving millions of views, ask yourself immediately, what is the actual underlying evidence being presented? In the Kidman Urban case, the evidence was nearly always either the absence of something, like a photo together, or the subjective interpretation of nonverbal cues, like a subtle hand gesture or a perceived lack of eye contact. That's not solid ground.
Yeah, we really have to actively practice restraint, recognizing that in this digital age, high engagement almost always correlates with high speculation, and unfortunately rarely correlates with high factuality. The most powerful, most shared stories online are often the ones that are actually the least substantiated.
Ultimately, the analysis here, it transcends the status of just one celebrity marriage, doesn't it? It's really about the difficulty of maintaining any semblance of privacy and normalcy within a long-term high-demand marriage under that kind of spotlight.
Hmm.
And it highlights the cultural challenge we face when we mistake professional necessity or just normal human variation for relational failure.
That public appetite for seeing the ideal couple unravel, it remains one of the strongest drivers of online content. Even when that unraveling is purely fictional, just speculation, it kind of forces us to ask ourselves, are we simply consuming a story? Or are we maybe unintentionally actively participating in its creation through clicks and shares?
And if we are participating in its creation, even passively, we have to acknowledge the immense pressure we collectively place on these individuals to conform to an impossible public standard of perfection. It's a heavy burden.
A truly insightful look into the machinery of celebrity gossip and the resilience required to survive it. Thank you for helping us navigate the facts and the considerable fiction today.
My pleasure. Always interesting to unpack these things.
And for you, the listener, we really hope this gives you a sharper understanding of how these trending narratives are built, and often how they might be largely baseless. Maybe use this knowledge to approach the next viral story you see with a bit more informed curiosity, a bit more critical thinking. Speaking of viral stories, in our next episode, we'll be looking at another star dominating headlines, but for very different reasons, the pop sensation Tate McRae. Her music and image seem to be redefining Gen Z pop stardom right now. You won't want to miss our exploration of her meteoric rise.
Until then, keep questioning the narrative.
And we'll see you next time on Trending Unpacked.